What's up, YouTube? So, in this video, I'm going to be going over the Miami Dolphins roster again. Now that the brunt of free agency is over, now that the draft is over, I can kind of talk about where our roster stands. We've got our undrafted free agents now. So yeah, we'll start off at the quarterback position. We did pick up Tua's fifth-year option. So we have him on the books for another 2 years, well, including this year, which I do think is a good option. I'm not really trying to pay him just yet. I think he still needs to prove a little bit more. He did take a pretty significant jump from 2021 to 2022, but there are some things that I still need him to prove. I need him to prove that he can play an entire season. That's one thing. And two, I need him to be able to play consistently for an entire season, because he didn't prove either one of those things for me last year. I think there were a lot of games later in the year where Tua kind of he didn't really look as good as I would have liked him to. A part of that is because of Mike McDaniel, but a lot of it's on Tua as well, particularly in the 49ers game and the Chargers game. We made our money this year by throwing deep over the middle. That's how we were really beating a lot of teams. But teams started to notice that, so they started dropping a linebacker back and taking that away from us. And Tua and Mike McDaniel were both trying to force what was previously working, even though the defenses were taking that away from us. Instead of opting for better options. So I do want to see them both not get tunnel visioned as much as they did. And then, like I said, I'd like to see Tua actually stay healthy, even though this is basically the same starting offensive line as last year that injured all three of our quarterbacks, Tua, Skyler, and I don't know why Teddy's still here, but Teddy, I don't know why Spot Track still has him. Whatever. So yeah, there's that. Mike White we have for 2 years. I do like that. I think he's a really solid backup quarterback. If Tua goes down for a couple games, I'm comfortable with Mike White stepping in. Skyler Thompson, I assume, will improve from last year going into year 2. James Blackman, he's a camp arm at best. I don't even think he's a practice squad guy. I honestly kind of want to try to sign a cheap veteran quarterback. I know we don't have a lot of cap space. We have just under $3 million, but you can restructure some deals and stuff like that to get a little bit more cap space if needed. But that's whatever. And I also wouldn't have signed as many undrafted free agents. I would have used some of that money on some veterans. But that's me. My thinking is, like, just having a veteran to kind of sit on the practice squad. I know that's not ideal, but this is still the same offensive line where we lost all three of our quarterbacks at some point. So, I mean, if you think about going into the playoffs last year, we went in with Skyler Thompson, and then we picked up Mike Glennon as a cheap veteran backup. I'd like to do something similar, even whether we sign Mike Glennon himself or like a Josh Johnson type of guy, whatever. Someone who's been around, has seen multiple playbooks and stuff like that. So, moving on to the running backs. We have Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert for 2 more years, which is nice. I mean, this is basically the same running back room as last year. Chris Brooks is the new addition. I don't think he'll be on the active roster. Maybe he can beat out either Gaskin or Ahmed in camp. He does give us a little bit of something different. He can kind of be our backup, more power back. I don't really know. I don't really see much of a use for him. I think it's still just going to be Mostert and Jeff Wilson carrying the load. But we'll see. Fullback, if Alec Gold stays healthy again this year, I'd probably re-sign him. I thought he played pretty well for us last year. John Lovett, I don't really want. I'm going to be totally honest. In 2023, I don't see the need for a backup fullback. I just don't. Wide receiver. Okay, for some reason they don't have Elijah Higgins listed at wide receiver or tight end. That's weird, but okay. Keep him in mind. We'll have him for a 4-year cheap contract. Because we did draft him in the 6th. But whatever. So obviously we've still got Tyreek Hill. Jesus, $56 million in 2026. That's insane. But we'll probably restructure that by the time we get to that. Cedric Wilson. God, I hate that. I hate that he's making $8 million. Oh, boy. Jalen Waddle, of course. Braxton Berrios and Robbie Anderson for a year each. Still got Eric. And then that 6th spot is still pretty open, to be honest. Freddie Swain. I mean, River Craycraft actually played pretty well. I think he's probably going to be the favorite. Tanner Connor is actually a tight end. Braylon Sanders, him and Tua did pretty well in camp. Maybe he has a better year too. And we'll have to see how David Davis and Chris Coleman do in camp. But they kind of have a upward climb to make. So we'll see. So, yeah. Moving on to tight end. Durham Smythe, obviously, is our starter. I hate this tight end room. It's not great. Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert, Tyler Kroft. Also, Tanner Connor and Elijah Higgins should be considered tight ends. But for some reason, they have Tanner Connor still as a receiver, and they don't even have Elijah Higgins on here. So there's that. I'm not a big fan of this room. I'm just not. I think it was kind of an afterthought. And also, Mike McDaniel is supposed to be this running game expert, but it just feels like we're just building up to be a passing team. Doesn't really feel like we're trying to run the ball. Like, we didn't really improve the offensive line at all. Actually, it got a little bit worse because we don't even have Brandon Shell. He was at least better than Austin Jackson by default. The running back room is the exact same. Like, I don't know. But then we add people like Braxton Berrios, Robbie Anderson. I don't know. It just... I don't know. We'll see. But moving on to the offensive line, I hate this room. This is the worst part of our team. Teron Armstead, fantastic, but he is going to miss games, and we don't have a good swing tackle at all. So that's obviously not ideal. Don't really have any good backups. Jerron Christian, I guess. Yeah, this offensive line room sucks. And even if you just look at their contracts, most of them expire after this year. That's the other thing. Robert Jones will be a restricted free agent next year. I actually like him better than Liam Eichenberg, even though he has 2 years left. I think when Liam Eichenberg went down and Robert Jones filled in for him, I thought we had a better offensive line room. That's just my opinion. I think he should just start over him. Robert Hunt, we're going to probably have to find a way to re-sign. Yeah. Same with Connor Williams. Man. We need a lot of work with this offensive line room. Unless we want to have to try to fill 4 positions that we won't fill. Because if we don't keep Connor Williams or Robert Hunt, we're just going to have Teron Armstead and the Boo Boo Squad. That's what our offensive line room will look like. Because I don't feel confident in this front office drafting or picking up offensive linemen. They just don't give a shit. They're like, you know what? I know we have this injury-prone quarterback and our running backs are kind of mediocre. We're not going to give him an offensive line to get the best out of him. Fuck him. Who needs to score points? We have all these receivers. What do you mean? They can. They're fast enough to run away from how bad our offensive line is. That's what the strategy is. We don't need offensive line because we got a bunch of yak guys. Fucking idiots. Anyway, defensive line. I guess I can probably. I should probably include linebackers too, because they got edge rushers mixed in. I'll do D-line first, like actual D-linemen. So we've got Christian Wilkins for another year. Obviously, him and Zach Sealer, I would really, really like to re-sign. Raekwon Davis can walk. I really don't care. That's just kind of how I feel. After that, it's pretty open. I mean, we have these undrafted guys, Randy Charlton, Anthony. I think these guys are guys that could potentially try to make this roster just because we don't have a whole lot of depth in that regard. But we'll see. Josiah Brunson and Jalen Twyman, I think their jobs are up for grabs. Manu Agba obviously is really one of our edge rushers, really. Edge rushers looking pretty good, though. Agba, Bradley Chubb, Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel, who we did re-sign. Malik Reed for a 1-year deal. That's awesome. Melvin, yeah, we don't have Melvin, but Cameron Good, which hopefully he kind of takes a step up in year 2. That'd be nice. Yeah, I like our edge rusher room a lot. I don't know if it's an improvement. I don't know for sure I don't know for sure that Malik Reed's better than Melvin Ingram. I'm not totally sure about that. He might be. But anyway, linebacker room, Jerome Baker, David Long, Duke Riley, Channing Tindall, and Mitchell. I guess it's better than last year. I mean, just adding David Long makes it a little bit better than last year. He's at least an upgrade over Landon Roberts. I blanked on his name for a second. So, I mean, the linebacker room's not too bad. I mean, we still got Jerome Baker for a while. Those are void years, aren't they? Yeah, so actually, we only have him signed until next year. These are void years. Yeah, he'll make that off the roster unless we re-sign him. David Long, same thing. We have him on a 2-year deal. Duke Riley, same thing. Okay, so basically this linebacker room has 2 years, basically. Got it. Yeah, Byron Jones. This is going to be a June 1st cut. So this is what we'll be making when we cut him, which will be great. We'll have some more cap space then. And hopefully we can make a couple moves because there are some guys that will be available. So we'll see. Xavier Howard, obviously, we still have for quite a while. We restructured his deal, so that's nice. Noah Igbenogany, we only have 1 year left with, thank God. Keon Crossan, sure. Can I do this? I'd rather just talk about corners right now, and I'll talk about safeties in a moment. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey we have for another 3 years, so having him in X will be a lot of fun. Nick Needham we did re-sign for a year, which is fun. We did re-sign Justin Bethel. Awesome. He's a good special teams guy. And when he did have to come in at corner, he did play pretty well. And Kader Kohu was fantastic as well. And hopefully we'll see something from Terrell Williams as well. He was having a really good camp and preseason before he got hurt a second time. We'll see. And then you've got Ethan Bonner and Tino Ellis that are going to have an upward climb, let's be honest. Okay, so let's take a look at the safeties. Javon Holland. Okay, there's Brandon Jones. Okay, I was about to say, I didn't see him, but they got him listed as a free safety, even though he's not. He's a strong safety. We only have 1 year left with him, too. We're going to have to figure that out. I don't know. I don't think he's a guy you really re-sign unless he really goes off this year. But Javon Holland, we still got 2 years with, which is nice. We're going to have to re-sign some guys. Verone McKinley, we only have another year with, but then we can press this button and get him back for another year for really cheap, which I'd probably do. Elijah Campbell. The fuck is it? What's going on in 2024 with him? Let's see. It doesn't say. I assume he'd be a free agent then. Okay. So safety is definitely something we're going to have to probably address at some point. we're definitely going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Brandon Jones. I probably wouldn't re-sign him. I think he's kind of a limited player. He's not a bad player by any means, but... Looking at special teams, Jason Sanders, I would like to bring in a kicker to challenge him at the very least. I'm not trying to necessarily just cut him because he hasn't played great the last 2 years, but if you look around the league, kicker isn't very good. So there's that. So I'd like to potentially bring somebody in just to kind of compete with him, but that's just me. Don't have to talk about long snapper because I don't have anything to say. Jake Bailey, we have on a cheap 1-year deal. He's kind of interesting. He's a guy that, was once a All-Pro and Pro Bowl punter for the Patriots, but he hurt his back, and since then has been really, really bad. So we'll see how that works out. Michael Turk is the undrafted punter that we signed, who's swole as hell, has a lot of power in his leg, but isn't the most accurate guy in the world. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, how that camp battle plays out. We'll see. At the very least, we have Michael Turk for a longer deal if we decide to keep him. We'll have him for cheap for 3 years, which is something. So we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, appreciate hitting that like button. Have any questions or comments in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.